Hey everybody, it's Irene with BrainStormAcres, and Henry asked me to take some video down in the studio today. I have been doing lots of stuff the last few days. Packing up some things for our trip. I do run a small behind-the-scenes shop there for polishing and other stuff. I occasionally need to touch up on things when people ask me to make something, so I have to have some equipment with me. Most of the stuff was done with hand tools, and I'll have a big toolbox full of stuff for that. I also carry a certain amount of wire and metal with me. If I need to make something, and because you never know. I remember, geez, it's been a while now, but probably 6 or 8 years ago, I was there and somebody came in and said, wow, I really like these things you have. I need 6 of them. Can you make me more? And I said, okay. So I gave her a time frame to come back because it's a 2-week event, so there's time for me to do things. And I made, probably 8 of them, and then let her choose the 6 that she wanted. And she was going to use them for bridesmaids gifts for her wedding. So I'm totally good with that. It was very nice, and it was fun to know you were participating in somebody's special day. But mostly what I'm doing here today is cleanup. So earlier this morning I cut off the last of the things that I had cast. Let me show you the bases. Let's see how well it shows there. It shows okay, I guess. That's the base of the flask. When you cast something, you wind up with all the bits and pieces that you've cast sitting on the top here, and then you have this, what they call a button at the bottom. That's a collection of extra metal. It's there to make sure that you have enough metal. And I cut off the last of the things on here this morning, and I have been doing some rough polishing and grinding and things on those pieces, and they are currently in the tumblers over here being tumbled. So let's move over to the tumblers. I don't have the noisiest of equipment on right now, which is a good thing because you can't hear yourself think when some of this stuff is on. I wear a lot of hearing protection down here. Yeah, right there. These are the tumblers, and what that consists of is, so this is a tumbler. It's just a, it's the same kind of tumbler that people use for polishing up stones. And we have these barrels, which contain, in this case, probably what will be very dirty water with special compound in it. And that noisy bit there is stainless steel shot, which is just used for polishing stuff up. And you can see, I think it's just literally little pieces of stainless steel in different shapes. They use different shape. You have options. I prefer mixed shapes like this because they get into all the nooks and crannies on just about any shape of thing that I am making. And what I have in here are things that should be ready to be final dried. Now what I'll do, some of these are things that have come out of storage and has simply gotten tarnished from sitting around in storage. And these are some of the things I cut off this morning. These are what they call a bodkin, which looks like a little needle, almost like a tapestry needle. It's a little bit sharper, but you can dull them if you want to, and it's used for threading the laces through certain types of dresses. I also have some Tudor buttons. These are kind of cool. And these can be enameled. There's little depressions in there. Can be filled with different colors of enamel. And that's what I was doing this morning, was cleaning these guys up and getting them all ready to get their final polish. I go over these again up in the house. I can turn on every light in here, but I don't usually bother. I'd rather look at them up in the house and do a final QA on them to make sure they're smooth enough, shiny enough, anything else that needs to be done enough. And then this goes back in here. I pull out anything I don't want in there. There was a piece of metal that needs to go over here where it can be reused next time I cast. And I'm checking to make sure there's no other pieces in here, because sometimes when you rifle through with your fingers, it doesn't get them all. I don't think I have anybody waiting in the wings right now. Now what I can do is I can polish up some of the failed pieces and sprues and stuff like that I have sitting over here on the bench. I'll probably go ahead and do that, since I have, you know, it takes the same basic amount of energy to run one as it does to run two. And this is some scrap left over from casting, and this will be reused at a later date. So I'll just toss this in here. I'll add this green goop, which is a combination of water and this stuff, which is a burnishing compound that I get through Rio, and which is one of my main suppliers. They're one of the biggest suppliers for most of the jewelry industry, I think. And they have reliable products, which is a big deal for me. Some people will say, oh, I can get this stuff cheaper or that cheaper, and I'm like, yeah, but does it work as well? Because every time I waste time, time is money. So now this guy will go back over here, and he'll continue to roll in here to get clean. I'm going to check the guys in here. I'm not sure they're going to be clean enough yet. These were just cut off this morning, and they have not been previously polished, so they're quite dirty. You see how black that water is? They're definitely cleaner than they were earlier. These are also a type of bodkin, but they're longer. These have not had the ends polished or anything yet, or the holes drilled. I'm going to throw this back in there for another round of polishing. I like to have them pretty clean before I start to actually do any fine work on them, because sometimes if they're not clean enough, you'll think that they're going to be good quality and you'll spend your time on them, and then you'll find out that they're not good quality and you can't use them. So I prefer to let the machine do a lot of the polishing while I'm doing something else. Now, this is one of my noisy beasts over here. This beast here is a vibratory tumbler. You'll see when I bang on it, it zigzags. It is full of corn cob, which is literally the corn cob of a corn. And it is used to dry things that have been polished so you won't get any water spots. So what I do, this is going to get noisy. So I have a switch back here. And then I pull these guys out of the water. They are being rinsed in distilled water. Some places in the US you don't need to use distilled water, but I find that my stuff looks better. It doesn't tarnish as badly if I use distilled water, because our water has such high mineral content here. So since my purpose is to have to only polish it once and have it stay polished for a while, then, and now that will simply bounce around in there and get dry. So what else have I been doing? Oh, I need to draw down some wire. So I'll take you over to the wire drawing bench. Okay, this is a homemade draw bench. The professionally made ones, oh geez, I think the last time I looked at one, they were about $1,200. And that's just not on the list of things, so I'll point to the pieces of it. This is a winch, the same kind of winch that you would use on a truck or to tow yourself out of ditches and things like that. You don't need the most expensive, heavy-dutiest one on the planet, but you need one that will work. And then at the other end of this bench, way down here, is a draw plate. Now, I'm not going to open that up, but basically a draw plate is a piece of metal that has holes in it that are sized according to gauges, and this is a new draw plate. I'm not using it though, but you can see the different size holes. The edge of one edge of the hole is tapered so that when you pull wire through it, it sort of goes like through a funnel. So I'll show you how I do it. I take a piece of wire that I've previously cut, which is why these wires are sitting over here. And one end has previously been tapered. See, it's skinnier here than it is here. I stick it through a specific hole in the draw plate. I grab it with a pair of pulling tongs. These are specially made tongs. You see that's got grip to it, so that I can do this by hand if I have to. I don't like to. It's hard on your back, but it lets you put a lot of force on a pair of pliers without your hand sliding off of them. In this case, I'm just going to pull it out a little bit because it's far enough almost out. I'm going to run the winch. Okay, now these are also pulling pliers, and what's cool about these is they have double handles on them. So if I stick those double handles through a ring and use that to pull, it will keep the pliers closed. I can use a clamp on it if I want to, but I don't really need to. Now, usually when I do this, I wear hearing protection, and I have music going in my head because, it's just really not that exciting. I mean, it's something I have to pay attention to, but I don't need everything that's running around in my head to be paying attention to it. So, you might ask yourself, why would I bother to pull wire when I can just buy wire in that size? Well, I'll pull one piece and I'll show you why. Now, before I let it come out of here, if I strum this, it's just like a guitar string. That's how tight it is. And you'll notice how incredibly straight it is. Now, when I pop it out of there, it's not going to stay as straight. But it's still a lot straighter than anything I would get off of a roll of wire. So I'm straightening it out. I'm also making it springy. So when I need to make certain things, some of the pins and safety pins and things that I make, I use drawn down wire because it makes the stuff naturally springy and much harder. Every time you draw down a piece of wire, it gets to be hardened. It's just one of those basic facts of metal that you actually change the crystalline structure of the metal when you draw it down. It makes it much less rigid. Much more rigid, rather. And, yeah. It's not going to go in the hole, of course, because I'm trying to do it. It's because I got the wrong end. That always helps. Yeah, there's one tapered end and one not tapered end. I had the wrong end. But I will draw this down however many times. And that makes it springy, and it makes it harder. So that if you make a pin with this kind of wire, it'll be stiffer than if you made it with just wire that came off of a roll. Even if when you buy metal, they sell it either dead soft, half soft, or hard. And you might say, well, you could just buy it hard. Yes, you could. It works better this way. And it also gives me some flexibility in case I am ever short of something. Native American jewelers in the Southwest do this all the time. and they do it a lot of times the old-fashioned way, which is how I was doing it when I started, which is you hold a draw plate like this up against the bottom of your feet, and you pull the wire through like this. Well, tell you what, after you've drawn down each piece of wire multiple times, and you've done that 6 or 8 times a day, you are one tired puppy. And Henry invented this. I had been thinking about it. I had a less complicated version that just used a ratchet strap, and that worked really well, and I used it for quite a while. But that drew a shorter piece, and Henry bought me, oh gosh, it's got to be 4 or 5 years ago now, he bought me the winch for Christmas and set this up for me so that I didn't have to break my back every time I needed to draw down metal. It was very cool, and it still is very cool. And I expect the winch to die at some point, but we'll replace it because it's worth having. Let's see, what else have I been doing around here today? I was drilling holes. See, this is one of the things I'm in the process of packing. This is a special kind of a grinder that I take with me called a jewel tool. I think it says that on the other end of the box. But I kept some of the packing material from when I bought it, and it travels in this case. I do have electricity at this event, which I don't at most events. This is a tumbler. This is my portable tumbler that I take with me to events. And this is a board that gets clamped onto tables to use the jewel tool. But this milk crate and that tool case will go with me. This big toolbox will also go with me. It has an assortment of things. I need to repack it. I've taken a few things out. I've used a couple of things. But it's got everything from pieces that will grow up to be something else when I need them. Like, let's see. Yeah, there's fibulas in there. I need to take those out. There's things like this, which that's a brooch that says Semper Ubi Sub Ubi, which means always wear underwear. And it's really bad Latin, and it was done on purpose. It's a joke. It's one of those things where somebody uses a dictionary to translate, and sometimes translations from dictionaries don't work. Let's see, this is my pewter casting area. I was casting an odd assortment of stuff. Most of it's already been processed. I need to process these Thor's hammers because they have not been handled yet. And I will clean off the flashing. The flashing is that little bit of extra metal around the edges. I will hammer them, and then I will drill holes in them for a ring, and then they'll be ready to go. And I'll start on those probably in the next day or so. I leave things like that to the last minute because I can actually do them at the event if I have to. What I do need to do is check to make sure I've cast everything that I need. This is my little furnace here that I use for melting the lead-free pewter. This is a reject. It didn't get good surface on it, so it got as far as first polish, and then I realized it wasn't good enough. So, but this runs at about 600 degrees when it's on. Obviously it's not on right now. I would not have my hand on it, and this would be molten. But right now I have 2 different kinds of molds here. I have soapstone molds, which is very traditional, the way it's been done for, like, you know, thousands of years. There's a mold for a this Thor's hammer, as a matter of fact, and this is a mold for a wheel, which is a Roman thing. So, yep, and I can cast. Oh, and there's a those are hooks, basically what we would call a hook, wrist clasps, but that's a hook and eye basically that goes on your cuff, and that's Anglo-Saxon. I've got that kind, and then I've got these, which are modern material. These are, oh, there's a scallop shell. See, there he is. This is what they call RTV, which is room temperature vulcanizing rubber. It's not really rubber, it's actually silicone. And yeah, I make all this stuff. So I make my own molds, and then I can cast whatever I want to make from that mold. I have some odd bits and pieces that need to be processed here. These are experimental brooches, and yes, that is a fishy. And they just got clean enough this morning, so I will see if I can finish them for this event. I may or may not be able to. These are penannular brooches. This is not completely shaped. It needs to be closed up a little bit more, and it needs a pin. But that's one's big enough to hold a cloak closed or something like that. I've got a whole roll of metal ready to go for making more penannular brooches. I have a bunch made. I'm going to see if I can make a few more before I go so that I don't have to work quite as hard at the event. Here's one of those wheels I showed you the mold for. That'll polish up really nice and shiny. I'll clean this section here flat and put a hole in it. And then that can be a ring can be put through there to make that work. This is where I drill my holes. I obviously have 2 drill presses. I don't use the big one too often because it's very inaccurate. It's an old Harbor Freight purchase, and it's got a bad wobble to the spindle. Try not to use it ever, but sometimes I have to if it's something really big. But my little guy is what I use most of the time, and I do things like drill holes in pieces and all that kind of stuff. And I've got the assortment of drills because you put a small hole through first, and then you go switch to a bigger drill bit. And then if you need to even do more, you can switch to other types of grinders and stuff. This is an in-process double-sided cross. I was experimenting with it, and I don't know if I'll ever finish it. We'll see. If not, I'll break that glass off and reuse the... it is glass, but it's enamel. I'll break the enamel off and reuse it as metal. This is another one that is not enameled, but I was trying to decide if it was good enough or not, and I think the answer is probably not, so I will probably just recycle that. So, that's what I've been doing. Oh, this beast. This is a ring cutter. And it's pretty amazing. It allows you to make a gazillion metal rings all by yourself. Quite the process. I will show that in another video. But I think that's it for me today. There we go. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell because obviously we're doing tons. Oh, more tons than I even want to think about. But it will all happen, and when we get to the event, we will actually get some downtime once we're set up. We joke about the fact that sometimes we have to go work away from home in order to actually get any vacation time. It's not really vacation because you're working, but you do get to relax a little bit. Sometimes I even bring magazines to read in the evening and catch up on because I'm not working on stuff around here at night. I just have what I'm responsible for at the event. So, until next time, bye. And be sure to keep brainstorming because obviously we are.